Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has decided to take on a very large and profitable corporation, even threatening as to remove special status from them. Oh, interesting. So why is Ron DeSantis suddenly, finally, taking a sort of populist stance on removing some special privileges, special tax breaks, and things like that for Disney? Well, it turns out it's because it's fighting against the so-called woke agenda. So, oh, interesting. Now, I'm going to show you a video here. Here he is, Ron DeSantis, talking on Fox News about what's going on and what the decision, or what brought him to this decision. Take a look.
Got to ask you what you did yesterday, and you basically said, hey, Disney, I don't like your stance against this bill, this parent rights bill, so maybe we're going to revisit your special status in Florida. Do you want to expand on that?
Well, over many, many decades, Brian, they've gotten incredible treatment from the Florida legislature, and they are treated on a pedestal. This one corporation is treated differently than everybody else. And so that's not something I've ever supported. But now in the legislature, you see a movement to reevaluate those special privileges. And so at the end of the day, I think Disney has gotten over its skis on this. And look, there's policy disputes, and that's fine. But when you're trying to impose a woke ideology on our state, we view that as a significant threat. This wokeness will destroy this country if we let it run unabated. So in Florida, we take a very big stand against that. And I think the legislature is going to look at that. And 6 months ago, it would have been unthinkable that they would be willing to reevaluate those special privileges. I think they are going to do that now, and that's going to represent a major shift for our state. But at the end of the day, I don't believe in special treatment for any corporation.
Sure.
All right. A few interesting things in that. For one, this wokeness is going to destroy the country. I'm sorry, what? How is being more inclusive destroying this country? Nah, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous. But let me just note that the total irony here on this, like, oh, I don't like it when any company, any corporation gets special privileges. I don't like when government favors any corporation. Oh, really? Well, that's funny because one of your donors had invested in Regeneron. That's during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, you had the monoclonal antibodies, which against some of the earlier variants actually worked very well. They don't work so well anymore against the more advanced variants such as Delta variant, which thankfully is no longer the dominant strain here. Now you have the less deadly but more infectious Omicron variant and the Omicron BA. So anyway, Regeneron doesn't really work as well against those. But anyway, what you had during that whole thing is Ron DeSantis pushing Regeneron, promoting Regeneron, that again, his donor had some investments in. Now that's really, really interesting. Very interesting. I don't favor one corporation over another, except when my donors are invested in a company that makes Regeneron. So I'm going to not only push Regeneron, but I'm going to wage war against masks and vaccines that reduce the spread of COVID-19. No, and are actually much cheaper as well. No, we're gonna push this treatment. That's what a Regeneron treatment that's over $1,000, while the vaccine. And by the way, this is cost that the government had to at the time foot the bill on, versus a vaccine that cost about $25. So, interesting. But I don't favor one corporation over the other. No. Again, this really does show, illustrates very, very well how much he, chooses who he supports by way of ideology. And again, they didn't go after Disney when Disney shut up, when Disney wasn't saying anything, when Disney wasn't shamed into actually taking a stand on Florida's disastrous Don't Say Gay bill. height of irony, again, Republicans actually threatening a corporation for once, but not for bad labor practices, but just for the sin of being woke. The wokeness is too wokey. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Now, again, I actually do agree that no corporation should get special treatment. Now, we'll get into what about that I actually might agree with. Because again, I don't agree. I don't think that any company should get special treatment. And when you look at what they are doing for what they did for Florida, what Florida did for Disney, I mean, that's crazy. So now, back in 2020 and in 2019, Disney actually got about $500 million in tax breaks from the state of Florida. But that's, of course, that's really par for the course. That's fairly normal. But in talking about special privileges, in 1967, Florida politicians passed something called the Reedy Creek Improvement Act. And I kid you not, that act basically allows Florida to govern itself. Not Florida, Disney, to govern itself in Florida as its own city-state, essentially. That was signed by Republican Governor Claude Kirk back in '67. I had no idea. Now, what it did is effectively created two municipal-like governments, Bay Creek and Reedy Creek, to regulate the Lake Buena Vista land where the Walt Disney World Resort operates. Resort operates, and boards are elected based on the preference of the property owners, which again would be Disney. The RCID operates its own fire protection, security, utilities, and city planning. Its board of supervisors is selected by, again, landowners, which would be Disney, effectively meaning the district corporation installs the government that regulates the 38.5 square mile property. The district effectively taxes the land and operates government services with that revenue, allowing essentially self-government. So yeah, it's a lot like what the Vatican is going on. So I had no idea. This blew my mind. Disney is essentially the Vatican. That's crazy. Like, you have corporate governance. A corporation is the government. And I look, we talk about, corporate representation in our government, the corporatocracy. That's a literal corporatocracy. That's a literal government running a city. That's crazy. That's totally insane. But anyway, nobody cared up until Disney started being slightly more pro-LGBT. That's fascinating. And by the way, they didn't care, Republicans didn't care when Disney was giving them massive campaign contributions and staying silent on these social issues. Now look, when you look at Disney, they've actually had a long history of not only bizarre anti-Semitism. I mean, you just look at, Walt Disney himself, super anti-Semitic, but also has a history of homophobia. Let me give you some examples, all right? Back in the 1990s, Disney actually became one of the last studios to offer domestic partner benefits over industry-wide concerns regarding the cost of HIV/AIDS treatment, according to the LA Times. So look, back in the 90s, they were the last studio in Hollywood. So all these other studios, and again, this is back in the 1990s, were like, hey, we got to at least offer some domestic partner benefits for gay couples. Okay, well, they're pretty late on that, but it got worse. It's actually much worse. In fact, attendees of Disney parks were actually banned from dancing with people of the same sex until the year of 1985. Wow. Now, they actually had to drop the requirement, their policy, following a court ruling. So they had to take Disney to court saying that, hey, this thing where you're not allowing us to dance with members of the same sex, that's kind of weird. Prior to that decision, the company had defended this same-sex dancing ban in court for 4 long years. Jesus. And more recently, Pixar workers say Disney had a history of censoring just about everything related to gay. This is according to a letter from leadership from the LGBTQIA+ employees of Pixar and their allies that was recently obtained by EW. Part of this letter read, quote, "We at Pixar have recently personally witnessed beautiful stories full of diverse characters come back from Disney corporate reviews, shaved down to crumbs of what they once were. Nearly every moment of overtly gay affection is cut at Disney's behest, regardless of when there is protest from both the creative teams and executive leadership at Pixar." So it's funny because you look at what conservatives have complained about, and it's like, oh my God, they're shoving the homosexual agenda is being shoved down our throat as we speak. That's a crumb. The writers are like, no, we're trying to put this bad boy can hold so much gay. We are trying to shove as much gay in there as we can, and they won't let us. They won't let us shove all the gay in there. They keep taking the gay out. And even with that, conservatives still complain, bitch, and cry and moan like no other. No, we should totally gay up Disney. Disney needs to be about 150% more gay. We need shove all the gay in there. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's see what happens. Yeah, more gay. All right. No, I'm definitely in favor. Yeah, more gay. There's not enough gay in my Disney. All right. So now, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that changed Disney, that made this stance, right? And got people like Ron DeSantis all verklempt, right? Clutching the pearls, right? They decided to appeal to people who have money. Gay people have money. Turns out gay money spends just as well as straight money. By the way, there is no such thing as gay money. Money's money. And that's what the corporate executives are looking at. They're like, they have money. And we have all these talented, by the way, Disney is full of talented people who are a part of the LGBTQI community. And so what they're doing is that they're not only have so much gay talent, but they're also like, hey, we make more money when we're pro-gay, when we're pro-LGBT. And so we'll allow a little bit of gay to get through, just to appease them and to try to not piss off conservatives. Now, the thing is, they walked that line for a while, but they can't anymore because here you have Republicans that have brought back the old culture wars after, they lost in 2020, and they've really started pushing this to the forefront once again. So, going after the gay is back for the Republicans. It really is kind of proof positive, by the way, that the culture wars, look, gay people, we won the culture wars, right? The left has. As far as LGBTQ, we're still working on trans rights, right? And trans rights, very, very important. There's been an unprecedented assault on them. And you might be wondering then, how can you say that we've won, that the left has won the culture wars when you have such a gigantic pushback on gay rights? Now, here's the thing. The way that the government works, Republicans don't need a majority of people, of voters, to hold power. What they need, and what they're appealing to, is a very loud minority to turn out in their incredibly gerrymandered districts to vote for them. And so what brings these people out? The culture war. And so, look, that's how you know, right? We have this, again, super, super broken system where you have a very, very small amount of people deciding these elections. And so, look, these small amount of people, they're very heavily involved. They get spurred on by this stuff. And so they show up and put these hateful Republicans in power. And that's exactly who these Republicans will always appeal to, will always pander to. That's all they need. That's all they need. So now, one last thing. This is DeSantis doing so-called right-wing populism, right? So now the message is, well, I'm taking on this big corporation. Okay, for what? For being too woke. Notice how right-wing populism is never about better working conditions, never about better pays and benefits for workers, or taking subsidies away from billion-dollar companies that don't actually need those subsidies. No, it's never about that. And yes, sometimes they do threaten the subsidies. Why? Because, well, it's not because you don't need them and we could, reinvest this money back into the community. No, it's always for the same message. You're too woke. Too woke, too pro-gay, too all of that stuff. Can't have it. Oh my God, there's somebody in my Disney film besides a cisgender white man. I can't handle it. My brain is melting down. All I feel is rage. Western culture being destroyed by the wokeists. The United States of America will exist no more. It will become the United States of wokeism. We can't have it. That's what it's really all about for them. They can't handle it. They can't handle anybody that's different. And so, look, nobody can give any sort of coherent argument as to why the inclusion of more people will destroy the country. The inclusion of different kinds of people who are members of the LGBTQ plus community, how that will destroy this country, this nation, I have no idea. And look, the reason they can't answer the question is because they don't have an answer to the question. For them, it's always, always about the feelings.